Hi, welcome back to the Political Beat. I'm Pat Maloney. I cover City Hall for the Free Press and LFpress.com, and with me is my esteemed colleague Randy Richmond, who is a special guest today because Chip is covering the mayor's court case, which is stemming from a failed business venture. You can read that story at LFpress.com, or if this is a couple of days after we filmed this, LFpress.com/Fontana, where you'll see all of our coverage of the mayor over the past 6-8 months. Hey, Randy.
Hey Pat, giddy to be here. Happy finally got on this.
I know, you're on the big stage.
I am on the big stage.
And it's going to be ugly afterwards. There's a lot of jealousy in the newsroom.
I know, and I cannot replace Chip Martin. Let's get
award-winning journalist Chip Martin.
I can't do that. So just do the best I can.
I remember what I said about just be natural, be cool, be yourself. Be your natural, cool self.
Okay.
Everything's going to be great. So Chip's covering a very interesting issue with the mayor in court today in Milton. And again, this is related to a failed business venture. But we're going to focus instead for this show on things happening sort of, might be more inside City Hall, at least at the beginning here, and inside the city. This issue of NIMBYism seemingly keeps popping up. This is not in my backyard, this idea that, oh, I really like idea X or concept X, it's great, but maybe you should do it over there, not in my community or my neighborhood. And in your gated community, I know that this comes up often, right? But Robinson United Church, which is in North London, was set to be, I guess still set to be converted into apartments, rental units, likely for students. The developer had wanted 14 rental units with 32 bedrooms in total. Nancy Branscombe, the ward councillor, said no, 6 units with 18 bedrooms in total. So that's a big difference from 32 to 18. Council voted to ask staff to come up with a compromise now with the developer. So the press pause on the project clearly said there's no way we're going to 32. Not necessarily going to go all the way down to 18. But what do you think about this idea that council is now telling developers what to do with their projects, and it's all sort of an outgrowth of like this neighborhood discomfort with, you know, student housing particularly there, but whatever it is, any sort of infill development?
Well, it's going to be, and I think you're going to touch on this in some of your stories you're doing now, but it's a big long-term problem too, because when the city talks about Rethink London and the future of the city, they talk a lot about mixed-use development. They talk a lot about intensification. The planners view the future of the city as this kind of thing where you take something that's not being used anymore, like a church or an empty lot, and you put, you know, multi-use, mixed-use, multi-unit apartments or whatever in there.
Condos or what have you, yeah.
So if everybody's saying, I don't want my neighborhood to change, I want it exactly the way it is, that goes against what the city planners envision as what the city should be, and it goes against what Londoners say they want.
What most right-thinking people would agree: infill, intensification, reusing existing buildings, reusing existing plots of land is the best idea, and in the long term is a lot cheaper because the services are already there, cheaper for the city. But I don't know where exactly I just find myself just frequently lately it's been popping up, and now the city has got a policy about areas around the university and the college, Fanshawe, and I'm working on a story today about that their policy is, as opposed to the citywide limit of 5 bedrooms per home or per living space, in multi-unit places, so duplexes and things like that, in areas around the college and the university, instead of a 5-bedroom limit, which they have everywhere else, there's only a 3-bedroom limit, and at least one developer and a handful of property owners are appealing that to the province. You can do that. You can appeal land use decisions at the city level to the provincial level. That comes to fruition or whatever, comes to a head next month. But I just don't know where you sort of like strike that balance between the existing neighborhood concerns, i.e. voter concerns, and the good of the long-term development of the city. So I don't know where to land on. I know where the politicians are landing on it. They're tending to side with the neighbors. I guess that makes sense, but I mean, this is going to be an ongoing thing.
Oh yeah, and their politicians are squeezed because they've got developers wanting to do things. They want to protect existing neighborhoods. And do you find do they sort of flip-flop, not flip-flop, but it's kind of a case-by-case basis?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, and I mean, I think that I can understand it if you're a ward councillor, like to tell an entire neighborhood, hey, sorry guys, that thing that you really don't want, kind of going to support it, or I can't get enough support to block it. You're kind of in some hot water if that happens, right? And we've seen it. We've seen projects rebuffed in Bill Armstrong's ward. We've seen this one in Nancy's ward. We got more questions in Blackfriars, and it's very complicated. It's way more complicated than just these people don't want this in their backyard. These are active citizens. They're trying to protect the fabric of their communities. I don't know how you strike the balance.
It is difficult, and you know what? People who like the old border control might say that would be maybe you need a level that looks out for the city.
Because you're not squabbling over your own ward, specific ward.
If I was a
needs.
ward councillor, I would listen to my neighbors, the neighbors too. But who's going to make the decision for as you put it, the long-term future of the city? Where is that level of
citywide vision?
Yeah, where is it coming from?
And I think we've heard that, I mean, on the record and off, from former border control members who said that was something that the city was going to miss, and you would see more ward by ward kind of scrambling, or whatever you want to call it, where I'm Ward 5's councillor and I'm going to do everything I can to protect its interests.
Right.
Even if you could make the argument that it's against the city's overall interest. So anyway.
I think you made a great point there, though, that you can't blame these neighbors. They're not just saying, not in my backyard, because they don't like anything. They just want to keep the integrity of their neighborhood intact.
Yes, but you got to strike that balance, and I don't think it's really being struck clearly at City Hall yet. But anyway, that's something to keep an eye on. So another issue, or another development in the city this week, was the London Knights, which may not seem like a political issue, and certainly is not, but the success of a sports team, in my opinion, and we wrote an editorial this week about this, does a great deal to burnish the image of a city to outsiders, and maybe even kind of, shine it up a little bit for people who live there. Oh, here's something we can cheer about. And the London Knights are truly successful, and I mean, I have a lot of friends and relatives who are hockey fans across the country. Virtually every time I see them, the same question is asked: what's new with the Knights? What are the Knights doing? What are the Knights up to? It's a real source of pride for the city, and I think that it's a real source of, almost bragging rights for London, that we've got this private enterprise in the city, the Knights organization, and run by the Hunter brothers, but it's so successful that the city's almost successful by association. Would you agree with that?
I would, and Lord knows in this city we need stories like this.
Yeah, we'll take what we can get, but this is especially great. Yeah.
Well, and I, you can tell I've been writing about Rethink this week, because again, that came up. They released their discussion papers this week.
Hold on, Rethink is, how would you describe Rethink?
Rethink is the city planner's attempt to develop a new official plan, which is kind of
blueprint for city growth,
right?
Long-term
and that's
growth.
a bureaucratic way of looking at it. But Rethink is getting, and they spent all last year getting Londoners to tell them what the city should look like,
right,
and what's important. And of course, everybody says culture is important, and that's one of the discussion papers that came out this week: culture, transportation, and green environment. But interesting, I thought that the city bureaucrats absolutely agree with you that when you talk about culture, you can't just talk about the arts and entertainment. Sports is a huge part of a city's culture, and I think in this city it is obviously a huge part of our culture. And the fact that we're winning a lot of things, you talk basketball, nationals, Knights.
Yeah.
It does do a city proud, and it does make you feel good about your city, and it does bring attention.
Yeah, and I just think there's a lot of concern about the political troubles at City Hall, and totally, I guess in a way unconnected, but also very much connected, is the legal troubles of the mayor and the negative attention that's brought nationally. Here's the exact opposite of that. Something happening in the city that brings a lot of really positive attention, and the Hunters are not running a non-profit enterprise, right? And let's make it clear, this is a private business and they do very well at it, but these guys are really successful and they really want to win, and the city benefits, I think, a great deal. So we sort of owe those guys a thank you, and because it's a tremendous benefit for the city's image, I think, that they're in the Memorial Cup this week, or I guess it starts on Friday, and I don't know, it just looks great for us. It looks great for the city.
It does, and it was a little bright spot in our night, that same night, as a pair of Leaf fans. We won't go much farther. We won't talk about that anymore. But
speaking of bad news, yeah.
Yes, but I think you're right, and I'll throw this at you, kind of out of the blue. Do you think the city promotes this enough?
I don't know. I mean, I think that sports and sports media is just like this big monstrosity. It feeds on itself, right? You don't really need tours in London or something to tell, hey, do you know that we have an Ontario Hockey League team in London? True. Like, have you been living under a rock in a cave on Mars for the last 10 years? Like, we know it's there. But I just think that it's kind of a nice thing to cozy up beside and say, hey, this is ours. Yeah. And by the way, we're really, really good at this. And really it makes the city look good. And it's a really nice thing to be able to talk about something positive about London and positive attention that we're getting. You had another interesting run-in today. You sat down with Tim Hudak, who of course is the leader of the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario, Did Tim talk to you at all today about, I mean, I presume if he's touring the province and talking to the media, he's gearing up potentially for a campaign. Does he expect one? Does he expect the budget to be passed or to fail, or did he not really get into that?
He did. He did not. I don't think he knows what to expect. I think, and I asked him. I said, you know, here's a province that's beset by scandals. You're in regions like Southwestern Ontario that are hard economic times. It's like you're tantalizingly close to getting the reins of power.
Right.
And he knows that, but I think he's afraid that Andrew Horwath will strike a deal with the Premier. I mean, there's two theories on that. Is Andrew Horwath asking these demands to force an election, or because she can get whatever she wants? And he doesn't know. I don't think he has a inkling any more than you and I do what to expect.
Would you agree that he sort of seems like the forgotten man in all this? Like, you hear a lot about Wynne and you hear the negotiations with Horwath. Until you met with him today, I sort of hadn't heard his name in a long time. So he's while they're the official opposition, they're sort of pushed to the side almost, right?
Well, he said that he vowed that they wouldn't support the budget even before they read it. When we asked about that today, we said, that's kind of a high stakes risk, and now you're out of the picture. Just like you say, now right. There's two other people negotiating and you're doing nothing. And he said, well, true, but the stuff they said before the budget, he realized he couldn't support it anyway. So, but he's not in that position to get concessions. But I don't think he wants concessions. I think he wants to run the government.
Right.
So he is taking that risk of being put out of the picture
for the time being, anyway.
If he gets some luck, maybe he'll be running in the election.
Yeah.
They certainly are visiting our region a lot lately, aren't they? All three of them.
I'll say. And did he say anything about this area? Like, what did he sort of get into?
He did. He did talk a lot about this area, and have a listen to what he said.
And it's heartbreaking to come back and see the kind of unemployment we have, or to drive through London, through St. Thomas, through Chatham, and see the empty shells, the skeleton of what had once been a very powerful and proud manufacturing sector that's now hollowed out. Not to use too strong a term here, but I do think that Southwestern Ontario has turned into a rust belt.
So there you go. He called this area a rust belt.
I think that's maybe a bit harsh, but not inaccurate.
It's not totally inaccurate. I mean, Rust Belt describes when manufacturing jobs have left. They mainly talking about the Midwestern states, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, and certainly manufacturing jobs have left this area. Now, interesting for Mr. Hudak, he believes that we can get manufacturing jobs back. I said to him, everybody believes in high tech. High tech's the way to go. He said, well, we need a lot of things, and we have to get those jobs back. Not necessarily the same places.
I don't know if that's an actual possibility.
I don't know either, but of course his mantra is cut taxes, cut red tape, update labor laws. So there's a
update labor laws, which means
you dismantle unions,
go to war with public sector unions.
Yeah. All those things. And he says that'll bring companies, which will bring jobs, which will actually increase wages. So it's that idea that
very different approach than the Liberals, anyway.
Right, and you know, who can ever tell which one's going to work?
You know what I think was really interesting? If you talk about election readiness, London West has been vacant for, I don't know what I think it's 3 months actually since Chris Bentley stepped away from that seat. That's a Liberal seat. That's like a prime Liberal seat, and they still don't have a candidate there. And honestly, I'm not sure that we're going to hear an announcement anytime soon. So you would think that if the Liberals are really concerned about this government falling, they'd sort of be hustling to get a candidate in there. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't know, but I mean, that would be a pretty sweet spot if you were a Liberal to run, because I think it's traditionally a Liberal seat, and certainly since Chris Bentley was there 10 years ago, it has been a strong Liberal seat. Right. So I don't know what to expect. Okay. Well, Randy, listen, thanks for joining us today. This was really acceptable.
That's all I wanted to be.
Great job as a poor man's Chip Martin. Anyway, thanks for joining us, and keep track of everything happening in London and at City Hall, in the London Free Press, and at lfpress.ca.